Hey everybody, Tim here with today's episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 4, Indiscretion. So, this is a really good episode. I really liked it. Before I get too far into it, it's noteworthy that this episode was directed by LeVar Burton, aka Geordi LaForge. And so Jonathan Frakes has directed Deep Space Nine, and I think this is the second time a Next Generation actor has directed Deep Space Nine. And I mean, LeVar Burton is a terrific director. He directs throughout Deep Space Nine and even into Voyager. He's a great director. So I'm really happy to see him in the director credits. So this episode is about Kira finding out that a ship that she had a friend on board had crashed years ago during the occupation, and somebody comes and says that they have found a piece of the hull of the wreckage. So Kira decides that she wants to go investigate to see if she can find it and if there are survivors on board. Well, because of the treaty between Cardassia and Bajor, Cardassia wants to send a Cardassian representative as well, because it is actually a Cardassian ship. It just had Bajoran prisoners on board, and Kira knew one of the Bajoran prisoners. That's why she wants to go. So she says fine, she'll wait a couple of days for the Cardassian diplomat to show up. He ends up showing up, and it's none other than Gul Dukat. So the two of them are trying to put their differences aside to find the ship. They go to the planet. It's some terrific, offset filming of them going through, sand dunes and stuff. They find the wrecked ship, and it turns out that not only did Kira know somebody on board, but Gul Dukat had a lover on board, a Bajoran woman that also had a child from Gul Dukat. So this episode just has a lot of layers to it. It just gets deeper as you go into it. Gul Dukat tells Kira that if they find the survivors, he will be forced to kill his daughter because nobody else can know about this, including his current wife. So it's a really interesting episode they've talked about orphans from the occupation before, but I don't think they've actually talked about a half Bajoran, half Cardassian child. I think this is the first time they've talked about it. Well, to get to the end, they do end up finding the survivors, and they're being held prisoner by the Breen. Now, we first heard about the Breen in The Next Generation, and even in the Generations movie, they talk about the Breen, but this is the first time we've ever seen them. And it's just kind of interesting, because the first time we heard about them, a kid was describing them and how they wore helmets and stuff. And sure enough, all throughout this episode, they wear helmets. To be honest, it looks like the helmet that Princess Leia wore in The Return of the Jedi, the third movie, and where she's undercover in Jabba the Hutt's palace. I don't know how intentional that was, but the helmet looks exactly like that to me. But anyways, they end up finding him. They find Gul Dukat's daughter, and he does let her live. It's a really good story, and it's interesting to kind of watch the dynamic between Kira and Gul Dukat change. She clearly does not trust him, but they have their moments where Kira even says, in the future, Cardassia and Bajor might become friends and allies, but that will never happen between Kira and Dukat. So I like to see that. The subplot's pretty good. Cassidy Yates returns, and I've mentioned over and over again how I really like her story arc on how she's not just introduced and she's there every episode. She slowly gets into the series, and her role becomes more important as we get further in. But this is one of those first stepping stones where it's clear that Sisko and Cassidy Yates have a relationship going, but now she wants to be closer to the station to the point where she's going to work for Bajor and actually live on the station. And Sisko immediately steps back and is like, you know what, maybe this is too much too fast. And it's interesting to kind of watch their relationship dynamics as well. Because I've said before, the main plot and the subplot always have something in common, and in this case, it's that relationship. How do you go from being more than friends, and how do you even come together as allies? So overall, I thought this was a really successful episode. I really enjoyed this one a lot. For those who have seen this one, what do you guys think about Kira and Dukat, and what do you guys think about Cassidy wanting to be closer to Sisko? Go ahead, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for everything. I will see you guys next time for the fantastic episode Rejoined.